there's a popular conception of the individual as futile in the face of larger injustices, in the face of corporations, in the face of bureaucracy, in the face of tyranny. And there's truth to that, of course. But I think that there's a dangerous other side to dismissing the impact the individual can have, which is if you believe that the individual has so little power to affect their world, the reverse of that is believing that the individual themselves doesn't have that much power and is in some ways disposable for creating a larger tool to go against these things that the individual apparently cannot. And I think that's flawed. And I think this movie thinks that's flawed because this movie shows, in a way, there is that, right? He is this single man going against this, in a way, larger power, this big banker who has the power. He owns everything else in the town. It's just his bank going against the larger banker's bank. That's it. And that's what they say in the movie. That's like, this is the one thing that he doesn't own. And so when the angel shows him this is what it would be like if you weren't around, the town is named Pottersville after the banker because now he owns everything. And so there's this idea of, can the individual be of worth? Is the individual useful at all in trying to push against something much bigger than it? And this is also kind of like this biblical allusion, right? The David and Goliath motif. And so I saw that as important because it's tied in with cynicism. There's something very, I want to say glorious. This is the word that just popped into my head. There's something very glorious about ascertaining the value of the individual. There's something weird about it. It almost requires faith. It's almost like you have to have faith that this single human can be of worth in standing up to something quite obviously much larger and more powerful than it. Okay, so you see this in the movie because the whole point is like, okay, if you think your life, you're better off not existing, we'll show you what it looks like, what this entire town, what your entire community would look like -1. And now, of course, you can be cynical and be like, oh, well, there's some people -1 would be better off without them. We're going to get into that. I have a point for that. But what you see for this person, the protagonist in this movie, is that one person plays all these small roles, but they're still impactful. Even if it's a slight impact, it changes things in ways that we don't even realize, that can be so much for the better in a much longer scheme of things that we can't even conceive of. I think one of the really interesting parts of the movie there was that his brother died. That's the most obvious one, is that he saved his brother's life. So if he did not exist, and his brother did, assuming his brother still wanted to live, he didn't get just plucked out of existence, his brother would have died. He would not have saved him. And the pharmacist would have made that mistake. No one would have been there to stop that. He would have killed someone, and he ended up becoming like this wretch, like this alcoholic, went to prison for 20 years, I think they said in the film. So already these are 2 lives either lost or ruined through this single individual's lack of existence. And there's something really pretty in the end of the movie there, because it shows that the individual is the whole. Like, they are both the same. You cannot have the whole without the parts of the whole. And so when you bring this individual, you kind of visualize all the connections that have come out from that individual. You see, oh, okay, this is the whole. This is just the one part of the whole. And so you see that in the end, and it changes that resentment. Now, he's not this loser who sacrificed his glory so that his brother could go off and be the hero and live the big life. He is the reason his brother was the hero. His brother wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for him. So, and you see the brother kind of says that. He says, I want to cry. I think I cried at this part of the movie. I teared up. His brother even says, he's the richest man in this city or whatever. And it's this idea that, oh, he has all this money. But you realize that contrasted to the banker character, right? Which he's technically the richest man. There's this idea that this individual is rich in something different. He's rich in both all the money they've brought in him. So now he has exactly the same money that the banker took from him. But he's rich in all these connections that have come back to him. He's a part of the whole that is valuable. It's so powerful.
Not only that, it transcends mundane life in the sense that he basically is responsible for minting a new angel, because only through so it reaches from the lowest down to the highest thing. I mean, his life is the consequences of his individual life are having celestial ramifications.